So this video is going to get demonetised, I can feel it in my bones. Sex is fun, okay? But there are many things throughout history which don't really get talked about, partly because your history teacher would never want to tell you this kind of thing, but mostly because it's an inconvenient fact that sex has always been something kind of kinky and fetishy, and it's not a 21st century thing for sex to be so kind of kinky. So in this video I'm going to give you a bunch of facts about sex historically which your teachers probably didn't want to tell you about. So first up, 18th century Empress Catherine the Great from Russia employed foot ticklers to turn her on. So it seems many people in Russia who had a lot of money in the 18th century employed eunuchs and girls to tickle their feet so they would get aroused and have hot, steamy action with their husbands. And they also got employed to tell them kind of steamy stories to get them going and things like that. And they're actually really quite well paid. Seems like an interesting career option, doesn't it? I mean, it's the kind of 18th century version of Babe Station, perhaps. In the 1920s, there was a massive explosion of something called petting parties. And these were organised by young women who wanted to pair up with boys and generally have a good time. The parties were set up for the express purpose of some kissing, cuddling and some under the girdle action. The idea was they were trying to shake off the Victorian era of prudishness and propriety. But there was no full sex, you know, they hadn't got that far away from the Victorians. Talking about those Victorians, doctors in the 19th century used to masturbate their patients in order to calm them down. It's thought that during the Victorian era, hysteria was a massive problem with women, and doctors found, very, very medically accurately I think, that masturbation calms patients down. The treatment was called a pelvic finger massage, and if done correctly would induce hysterical paradoxium, which basically means they get very excited. In 18th century London you could buy sex guidebooks. Basically it was a prostitute to person matching service where you had this guidebook, you read through the kind of things that these prostitutes would do and you would match yourself to these women. Mostly women. They were dated every year and the guides contained ages, practices, types, appearance, techniques and reviews. It's like an 18th century cross between TripAdvisor and the mucky card you get in phone boxes. By the year 300 AD there were 45 brothels in Rome and they had to be closed until the afternoon simply because otherwise people wouldn't go to work. Now prostitution was fully legal in Rome and men could offer their services as well as women, and road signs shaped like penises pointed their customers to the establishments available. And at one point the census showed there were 32,000 sex workers in the city. And that's not just it, there were special tokens to use in brothels. The reason was there were soldiers throughout the empire and there was a massive language barrier, so if you wanted a certain type of sexual activity, all you had to do was point at the token that you wanted and pay the amount that it said. I mean, I would always recommend talking during sex, but perhaps if you don't actually speak the same language, it's quite hard, so to speak. And finally, in medieval France, there was very few ways that a woman could divorce her husband, but there was such a thing called an impotence test, because one of the ways you can get out your marriage is if the man can't father any children. These tests took place in open court. A man would have to ejaculate in front of the jury in order to prove that he was fertile. And potentially he would also have to have sex with his wife too, in open court. You thought Judge Rinder was dramatic. Okay everybody, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, why not give it a like just down below. Subscribe to my channel because I make videos every single week. You can do that about there. Or if you want to watch another video, you can do that by clicking just about there. Thanks again and I shall see you next time. Bye bye.